from the Herald report, quote, as Patricia came under outside fire as the face of the offense, Judge drew increasing criticism from within. Belichick would blast him in practice, and it wasn't uncommon for Judge and Jones to trade profanity-laced outbursts. Jones' trust in his position coach was effectively non-existent. Mac didn't like him, said one source, at all. Judge would speak extra loudly in meetings, trying to project like he was the guy, another source said. And I think that kind of rubbed people the wrong way. A lot of people were frustrated with Judge, a third source added. And it wasn't just the Patriots. In the wake of Judge losing his job in New York, reports leaked out that he had players and coaches, quote, walking on eggshells. From New York Post reporter Ryan Dunleavy in January of 22, Giants team source on Joe Judge firing. The coaching staff walked on eggshells. Players didn't believe in the system. Everyone liked him as a person, but when you hear the same repetitive stuff without changes, it becomes like a broken record. The Patriots were in need of a fresh start after last season, but at least in some regards, it's starting to feel like second verse, same as the first. All right, I mentioned Burt Breer from Sports Illustrated and Ted Johnson. Both are here with me. Burt, first of all, just give us the intel on what you have about Joe Judge's new role with the Patriots.
Yeah, I think people are making the mistake of looking at this as like all of a sudden now he's second in command in the organization. He isn't. I think this should be taken very literally, that he's going to be taking things off of Bill's plate. In some ways, it's going to be like the role that Matt Patricia served in 2 years ago in 2021, in that he's going to be a liaison between scouting and coaching. He's going to have some head coach like duties to what he does. And part of that, I think, is going to be to free Bill up to do a little bit more. And then another part of his job is going to be to oversee the special teams. And I think we can all agree that the special teams were a huge problem last year, and maybe a bigger problem than they've been at any point in Bill Belichick's 23 years in New England. And so I think, Ted, the way you want to look at this is it's very literally assistant head coach. You know what I mean? It's like taking things off of Bill's plate, serving in a lot of different ways, and trying to make the operation as a whole run a little smoother.
I get that, and that it very well might be true, but it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't necessarily matter what I think. What is the most important thing is what the players on the Patriots think, and they might not see it the same way you do or I do. They're going to look at this maybe as a promotion to some degree. And this was a guy that seemed very, very toxic. And you read the Boston Herald article that you referenced already, Trenni. There was some really damning just statements and what people were saying about Joe Judge. To have him around and to what will look like to some people as a promotion, it sends a really bad message, I think, throughout your locker room. So it's. And if he does officially get the title, then it opens up another can of worms that I just think, Jerod Meyo, I should be upset with that, because clearly it seems like he's the guy that's being groomed for the next kind of head coaching job. But I would think that he would want the assistant head coaching title over a Joe Judge.
I will say this, I think at some point we are going to get from Robert Kraft some sort of statement on Jerod Meyo and the potential succession plan and all of that. And maybe it's next week at the owners' meetings, but I think at some point, that's coming. And so, while Jerod Mayo's title might not change, my feeling is it's probably soon we're going to get a strong endorsement from the guy in charge and the one guy who's above Bill Belichick, and that's Robert Kraft on Mayo's future with the team.
Why didn't they just give Mayo, though, the assistant head coaching title? And why, with all the issues that Judge had in New York, and then obviously, as Ted referenced, had, last year that was referenced in the Herald article, and you go back to what was referenced in the New York Post. Players have had an issue with this guy, and yet now it feels like he has a larger role than he even did last year. Tommy Curran, by the way, writing this on NBC Sports Boston.com. He's been digging into this story as well. On Jerod Meyo, a title change, however, may not be in the offing. Ironically, it may be because Meyo subscribes to something head coach Bill Belichick espoused. The titles are superfluous. And I totally understand that. I was like, superfluous. Say it right. I totally understand that. And I guess for me, it's less about whether or not Jerod Mayo's feelings are hurt, because I do think that he's in the line of succession. I don't think they are. I honestly, genuinely think he doesn't care about titles. But to me, you should hear one.
You
should hear one, but two, it's more about like what happened last year. And so it seems like people who don't succeed, if you're close to Bill, you get opportunity after opportunity after opportunity regardless.
I've made this point too. Like I do think Jerod Meyo should care more about titles because they do matter with the other 31 teams.
There you go.
At some point, like it does matter what the other 31 teams think. And we've seen this before where there have been succession plans with certain teams that haven't played out the way that you would think they might. And it's possible that if this thing's a dumpster fire over the next couple of years, and maybe Robert Kraft's not running the team anymore, maybe he's handed it off to Jonathan. Jonathan decides, nope, we're gonna hit the reset button now. So I think that's why titles do matter.
Yeah.
I think to Jerod's credit, like he's a very principled guy. And my sense of it was, if you're not going to make me the full-on defensive coordinator, I don't want that title. Because, and I think part of it maybe is that like not having the title, if things don't go well this year, will give him the flexibility to leave. Now, I don't think that he has any plans on leaving. I think his plan is to stay here and eventually become the head coach here. But like if you're him, like maybe you value your flexibility more than you value kind of the appearances of having a certain title. And you think to yourself, if this doesn't really work out over the next year, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to up and leave. And being a linebackers coach rather than a defensive coordinator and assistant head coach, by the rules, actually would make it easier for you to get out of here. And again, I don't think that's part of his plan at all, but that would just give you the flexibility to do it.
Ted, of all the assistants, who has Bill's ear? Like, who is his, Joe Judge might have the assistant head coach title, but who's like his right-hand guy? Is there someone to push back on him?
I mean, it's, on that staff, not at all. I mean, maybe Jerod Meyo. I only know Jerod just a couple times we've talked, but from what I hear from everybody, he's an authoritative person, that he has the ability to go in there and talk to Bill and tell him what he thinks. So that would be the only guy.
What about Bill O'Brien?
I think Bill O'Brien does.
I forgot about that. That's
with him in Houston. I don't think Billy pulls punches.
It's so obvious. I blew it. In Bill O'Brien, I would think he's earned that right, and probably goes in there a little bit differently than he did his first stint in New England, being accomplished head coach down in Houston. So my guess is you're right, Bill O'Brien and probably Jerod.
I have a theory on all of this, like that, and I don't want anybody to say that this is a report because it's not. This is just my theory, seeing how things have gone over the last 6 or 7 weeks and how they've set up the coaching staff. Maybe Bill's deciding titles do matter. And maybe Bill's deciding that there was such a lack of clarity in who was doing what on the coaching staff last year that it caused a problem in his locker room. And now he's made the decision, I really need to silo people off, and I need to send a message like, this is what this guy does, this is what this guy does, this is what this guy does. And so by having
except on defense where your son coaches.
It feels like more of a Kraft thing than it does Bill. I mean, isn't that Kraft that's told him to go get an offensive coordinator and name him an offensive coordinator? That's more of a Kraft intervention than Bill kind of seeing it like that.
But look, if this defines what Joe Judge does better, if calling him the assistant head coach defines things better, then maybe there's a benefit to that. And you have Billy focus on the offense and the quarterback. There's his title. And then you have Steve Belichick and Jerod Meyo running the defense, and that allows Bill to be the head coach.
All right, guys, we have plenty more football ahead, including some new information on what's holding up the Lamar Jackson sweepstakes. That story keeps getting stranger and stranger. The NFL has stepped in, and one of these teams has emerged as the favorite to land DeAndre Hopkins. Find out who, and how would you feel if the Patriots don't